Synchronous, asynchronous,
Yes,
and what
yes.
energy?
Again, back to that.
Yeah, anybody taking up? No need for history, Yash. No need for history. If you look at this strip, the ECG looks more smarter than me. You have the bottom, which is a pulse oximeter trace, and then you have an ECG trace on the, making it too simple. So this is
Too simple? Too straightforward? I'll skip it. I think, is it? Yeah, good. That's how I felt anyway. 56-year-old male status post CABG 1 year prior now comes with chest tightness of 30-minute duration. A poor quality ECG, I think, but it's okay, not bad. So what do you think is the diagnosis? Status post CABG. LV function was about 40%. 1 year prior comes with chest tightness of 30 minutes duration. Is it as difficult as this? So what is it? Send it to the street physicians. That's what we are. What's the diagnosis? LBBB, normal axis. It's not left axis. Lead 3 is negative, AVF is biphasic, lead 2 is still very, very positive. Leftward. Is something that's giving you a clue there in the ECG, in the, there's AV dissociation? I don't see any AV dissociation anywhere. Lead 2, there's AV dissociation. P waves are there, yes. P waves are there all through, sir. There's a 1:1 VA relationship. There's a 1:1 VA relationship. There's no VA dissociation.
But it looks like I think it looks like a typical left bundle branch block.
Yeah, typical left bundle branch block. Look at the small R in V1, V2. Look at that initial sharp R wave. V1, V2, V3, V4, V5. And look at the transition. You know, there's a transition also. Status post CABG, invariably you have to think of VT unless otherwise proved. Correct?
I think one of the important comments I heard also was they wanted to look at the previous ECG. He has had a CABG done. Obviously, you must be having some ECG. Can you show the previous ECG for comparison?
I don't know whether I have that. Anyway, took him up for an EP study. This is what he had, a classical, slow, fast, atrial, AV nodal reentrant tachycardia. That's all he had, but post-CABG. So you need not go by what is the underlying heart. Most of the time, yes, if you have a structural heart disease, coronary artery disease in the background, VT, unless otherwise proved, is the right thing to go by, but you have to be careful. Yes. No, he had an underlying bundle branch block. He had an LBBB baseline. Once he got converted to sinus-rhythm, he had a bundle branch block, LBBB baseline. Pardon? He had. No, he had a left bundle branch block baseline. Sinus-rhythm showed an LBBB. I'm sorry, I didn't have that ECG to show you. I just gathered all these ECGs in a hurry, on the run. This was another patient who came with history of syncope. 70-year-old, known hypertensive. He presented to the ER with history of syncope. Sure, I need to come on. Okay, I give up. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Amit and Dr. Prakash. The topic for the next session is a 45-year-old patient with syncope. The chairpersons for this session would be Dr. Sunil, Professor of Medicine at Srinivas Medical College, Mangalore, Dr. Sudhindra Rao, Associate Professor, Shema, Mangalore, and Dr. Veena Pinto, Assistant Professor of Medicine at Father Muller Medical College, Mangalore. Kindly proceed to your seats. I invite the speaker for this session, Dr. Natarajan KU, onto the dais to speak on the topic, a 45-year-old patient with syncope. I request the chairpersons to introduce Dr. Natarajan.
Good morning. I am here to introduce Dr. Natarajan, and he's from MBBS and MD from Madras Medical College and DM from Sri Chitra Institute of Medical Sciences in Trivandrum. And he's a full-time teaching staff currently at Amrita Institute, Kochi. And his field's special interests are, he's in interventional cardiology and electrophysiology, and as well as his special interest in teaching. So after the morning few good sessions on syncope, now we welcome Dr. Natarajan to enlighten us with a case of syncope for a further better understanding. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, chairpersons. Dear friends, at the outset I thank the organizers for having invited me to be part of this midterm ICCON meeting. Can I have my slides, please? So though the topic says a 45-year-old man with syncope, I apologize that I have only a 33-year-old lady to show here. I do not have exactly a 45-year-old man, but this case has a lot of teaching points, so I elected to show the details of this middle-aged lady. There was a lengthy session before tea where was the value of ECG and long-term monitoring in syncope. Syncope is a symptom, not a diagnosis. It is self-limited loss of consciousness and postural tone with abrupt fall, relatively rapid onset, variable prodromal symptoms with spontaneous, complete and prompt recovery. The underlying mechanism is global cerebral hypoperfusion. The only difference between syncope and sudden death is that in one you wake up and the other you don't. As regards the etiology of syncope, I am sure we must have had enough discussion since yesterday. About 15% of cases, cardiac arrhythmia is the responsible cause for syncope. Clinical approach to syncope in the initial evaluation, the most important step in approaching syncope to have a reasonable clinical diagnosis is history, followed by physical examination, BP in the supine and the standing position, and of course the ECG forms a very major part in the initial evaluation of syncope. In the history, we look for a complete description from the patient as well as from the witness, circumstances prior, type of onset, prodromal symptoms, duration of attack, the posture, the fall, associated symptoms like involuntary micturition, etc., and what happens upon recovery, the sequelae after the recovery from syncope. These are all very essential steps in getting a diagnosis, and history often gives the diagnosis much more than any other sophisticated investigation. Before the attack, syncope versus seizure is very important to differentiate. Before the attack, prodromal symptoms like nausea, vomiting, feeling of cold, dryness in the throat, etc. favors syncope, whereas aura favors a seizure. During the attack, the tonic-clonic movements are brief. Even in syncope, one can have tonic-clonic movements, but it is very brief, and it typically starts after the loss of consciousness, whereas in seizure, it is the tonic-clonic seizures which actually happen first, followed by the loss of consciousness. And after the attack, one can have very brief periods of confusion, nausea, vomiting, pallor and weakness, whereas after a seizure, upon recovery, there is prolonged and variable periods of confusion, muscle ache, headache, etc. What is the value of ECG? If you pick up symptomatic sinus bradycardia less than 40, it is useful. Sinus pauses more than 3 seconds, particularly during wakeful hours. High-grade AV block, Mobitz type 2 AV block, if you are fortunate to pick up in the ECG, it is very likely that AV block with long ventricular asystole, the period which is the cause of the syncope. Alternate bundle branch block. Otherwise, rapid supraventricular tachycardia and ventricular tachycardia. We have had discussions in the morning that supraventricular tachycardia need not necessarily be hemodynamically stable. If it is very rapid, it can be a cause of hypotension and syncope because of that. Pacemaker malfunctions with pauses. Brugada pattern, long QT, pre-excitation, epsilon wave, as was shown by Dr. Prakash in the typical case of ARVD that he had in the previous session. Acute MI, old MI, all these are very valuable signs in the ECG which will give you a clue as to the cause of the syncope. However, one should realize that the ECG recording happens only for a very short time, a very small sampling window, so one can miss lot of information in a simple 12-lead ECG, and that is the value of prolonged ECG monitoring, as was shown by Yogesh in his initial presentation. If you have an ECG like this with syncope, you know for sure that there is a 2 to 3 AV block with left bundle branch block here and small narrow conducted PR interval, which is likely to be a Mobitz type 2 AV block, and this is very crystal clear that it is an AV block which is the cause of the syncope in this particular patient. Long QT in this case. A pacemaker loss of capture, in this case it was a ERI, or rather towards end of service of the pacemaker, which is the cause of the syncope in this case. So these are clear examples of ECG showing you the diagnostic information about the syncope. And this is a type 1 Brugada pattern. So these are ECGs which are very typical. But not always you have typical ECG changes which will pinpoint to the etiology of the syncope. Lot of times the ECG can be deceptively normal. When there is a high clinical suspicion of arrhythmia and the episodes are very frequent, but Holter monitoring can be useful. If the episodes are infrequent and the Holter monitoring, if it is normal, one can use a loop recorder to pick up the diagnosis, as was shown in the session before. Now we move on to our illustrative case example. A 33-year-old lady, mother of two children, no other comorbid conditions. At 18 years of age, she had a brief loss of consciousness in the bathroom with the probable seizure. There was no witness. 1 year later, when she was pregnant, she had recurrent episodes of brief loss of consciousness, which was attributed to anemia. 6 years prior to this presentation, at the age of 27 years of age, she had an injury to the finger while she was in the kitchen working on a grinder. She had bleeding, she had excruciating pain, and she had brief loss of consciousness. There was no witness. This was likely a pain-triggered neurocardiogenic syncope. Excruciating pain can trigger a vasovagal attack, and probably that was the case 6 years back. But what happened later, 6 months after this episode, she had a major witnessed episode after lunch. She was sitting in a chair, she was relaxing after lunch. She had brief loss of consciousness, immediately followed by GTCS. She had generalized tonic-clonic seizures, bladder incontinence. This episode lasted for a few minutes. Post-recovery, she had extreme weakness for a few hours. So this was the first witnessed episode, which was the patient had loss of consciousness and seizures after that. She consulted a neurologist in the Middle East where she was living at that particular point in time. The EEG was reported to have shown epileptiform discharge, and she was started on anti-epileptics. However, she continued to get recurrent episodes of graying of vision, heaviness of the head, abrupt fall, occasional injury to the face, jerky movements of the limbs, clenching of mouth, involuntary micturition, and the whole episode lasts for seconds to a minute. Multiple such episodes were happening almost once every month in the preceding 1 year. These episodes were triggered by emotional physical stress and typically very spicy food intake, which is very commonly taken in Kerala, and that is where I practice. They occurred both in the sitting as well as in the lying posture. She consulted a neurologist in our institution in 2009. An MRI and a 3-hour ECG was asked for. The MRI was normal. A 3-hour video EEG also was reported normal, which did not reveal any epileptiform discharges. She was kept on a combination of anti-epileptic drugs. However, she continued to have frequent similar episodes despite these medications. Clinical psychology assessment and psychiatry evaluation did not reveal any functional problem. She was then referred for a cardiology evaluation in February this year. Clinically, the CVS cardiovascular system was normal. The echocardiography picked up a PML prolapse with mild MR, no other abnormalities, and this is the ECG. Sinus bradycardia, 56 per minute. The PR interval was normal. There was 1:1 AV conduction. There was no pre-excitation. The QT interval was normal. There was no right bundle branch block pattern or Brugada pattern. So this was the ECG on initial evaluation, which did not actually give a clue as to these episodes. It was not of diagnostic contribution at this point in time. She underwent an exercise stress test, excellent effort tolerance, 82% target heart rate she achieved, normal chronotropic competence of the sinus node, 1:1 AV conduction throughout the exercise, and negative for ischemia and exercise triggered arrhythmia. So the TMT test also did not reveal any information. We did a head-up tilt test, which was negative at baseline and on isoprelin. So most of the investigations are normal. So in summary, here is a 33-year-old lady who had multiple episodes of brief loss of consciousness followed by definite seizures, all of very brief duration for nearly 6 years with very frequent episodes almost every month in the preceding 1 year. It was refractory to anti-epileptic therapy. The EEG did not show any seizure activity. Is it syncope or seizure? Points in favor of syncope, no aura, very brief episodes. Loss of consciousness is followed by convulsions lasting only for a very few seconds to a minute. Prompt recovery. These are points in favor of a syncope. What are the points in favor of seizure? Involuntary micturition, post-recovery, prolonged weakness. These are points favoring seizure. What are the indirect pointers not in favor of a primary seizure disorder? Repeated EEGs were reported normal, but interictal EEGs are known to be normal. Refractory to anti-epileptic therapy is again an indirect pointer that this may not be seizure and it could be syncope. Then we did a Holter monitoring after the initial cardiac evaluation. 1:30 p.m. after lunch, the patient was asymptomatic and you see a blocked P wave here. And the preceding PR intervals are constant. This happened during wakeful hour. Subsequently, all the episodes happened during sleep. This was at 2 a.m. during sleep. Consecutive multiple P waves were not conducted. At 2:22, again high-grade AV block. Mobitz type 1 or Wenckebach phenomenon, which is physiological during sleep. Intermittent complete heart block. Mobitz type 1 once again. So for the very first time in this patient, some kind of an abnormality was picked up in the Holter monitoring for the first time. No other abnormality has been picked up by any investigation done so far, except the EEG done in Middle East some years back, which was reported abnormal and we had no access to that EEG. This syncope can of course be explained by AV block, but how do we explain seizures? Can syncope due to cardiac arrhythmias be associated with seizures? Of course, yes. Severe cerebral hypoperfusion due to transient ventricular asystole can cause secondary seizures due to cerebral hypoxia, which is very well known. And this is given the term arrhythmogenic convulsive syncope, where arrhythmia is the cause of the seizures. So though this patient has AV block in the Holter, it happened predominantly during sleep, which can be physiological. Whether that was the cause of the clinical episodes, possible, but we are not very definite. So at this point of time, I'll take a pause and I'll invite some suggestions from the floor. So here is a lady with recurrent episodes of loss of consciousness, with typical seizures. Holter picked up AV block, that too predominantly during sleep. And any suggestions, how do we go about investigating this patient further?
One of the possibilities that comes to mind is we actually call it a paroxysmal AV block, which is really very difficult to pick up because the patient ECG otherwise always normal. In this particular patient, I think with a clinical correlation, an asymptomatic patient, AV blocks in a coke and AV blocks in a Holter would be benign, but here there was one AV block even while awake.
That's right.
While awake, so I think this probably is one of the ideal indications to have some sort of ECG recording during an episode, and some type of long-term ECG monitoring would have been ideal all these years. Probably an implantable loop recorder would have been ideal here, since the episodes are very infrequent, several months between an episode.
Okay, I fully agree with what you say. We asked for a repeat EEG, prolonged EEG monitoring for a rhythm clinical correlation and an EEG correlation as well. That's what we did. We did a 5-day prolonged video EEG monitoring, and we were lucky to pick up an episode. There are no epileptiform abnormalities even in this recording. She fortunately had a habitual event during this EEG recording. And let us see what the EEG recording shows. This is the baseline EEG, which shows a normal EEG pattern, and this is the simultaneous ECG monitoring which happens. The last but one, which is shown in green, is an ECG monitoring. So this is a normal EEG pattern on all the EEG channels and a ECG on the bottom, which I have highlighted, which is normal. This is when the event starts during this recording at about 11 in the night. And as you can see here, the initial ECG is normal, then we have some bradycardia episodes. Over 3 minutes, she had bradycardia, asystole and seizure. At 11:20, start of the seizure, repetitive tapping with the right hand. This is all recorded on the video. Lip smacking, hyperventilation, sudden jerky movements of the lower limbs, generalized toning posturing of both upper limbs, no response to pain, no respiratory effort. Then subsequently, over a period of 6 minutes, this patient becomes all right and responds to commands. So this clearly picked up the event, and I will show you something even more interesting. Look at this ECG and an EEG. It's literally a total suppression of electrical activity on the EEG and a flat line below, which is even more clearer in the next tracing. There is complete suppression of activity in the entire EEG channels, and you see a flat line in the ECG monitoring. And fortunately, this patient returns to normal activity, where the neuronal activity as well as the ECG returns to normal. And the rhythm becomes normal with normal electroencephalographic tracings. So this patient underwent a permanent pacemaker implantation subsequently. And during 5 months follow-up, she is totally asymptomatic with no recurrence of loss of consciousness or seizures. So I'll conclude by saying that cardiac arrhythmias account for about 15% of all causes of syncope. The 12-lead ECG gives a clue in a proportion of cases. However, the 12-lead ECG may be normal in many cases of syncope, like in this particular case. 24-hour Holter monitoring may be useful if the arrhythmic episodes are frequent. If episodes are infrequent, one may have to resort to long-term monitoring. Exercise ECG, of course, may bring out arrhythmias like right ventricular outflow tract VT, AV block at faster atrial rates, and EEG and a simultaneous ECG monitoring may be of great value in cases where the distinction between